Some moments from the Korean War were captured in black and white, but today they come to life in color. In this video, you'll witness 70+ fascinating and rare colorized photos, each revealing a powerful story from the battlefield. Welcome to Timeless Frames. Let's start. A powerful image captures American troops watching explosions light up the snowy battlefield. The war began when North Korea invaded the South, 5 years after Korea was freed from Japanese rule by the US and the Soviet Union. The nation was divided along the 38th parallel, with the South under US administration and the North under Soviet control. South Korea became a capitalist state under Syngman Rhee, while North Korea followed a socialist system led by Kim Il-sung. In one image, American troops are seen rushing toward a helicopter with US Army written along its side, while the pilot observes from the cockpit. From the start, both Korean governments refused to accept the border as permanent, leading to ongoing tensions. A photograph shows 2 American soldiers positioned in the snowy mountains near Pyongyang, aiming their weapons while keeping watch. The city, captured by UN forces in October 1950, fell back under North Korean control by December 5th. War erupted when North Korea, backed by the Soviet Union and China, launched an invasion on June 25, 1950. In response, the United Nations authorized military intervention, with 21 countries contributing troops. The U.S. provided nearly 90% of the forces. An image captures an American soldier handing something to a young girl. In the war's early months, South Korean and U.S. forces were nearly defeated, retreating to the Pusan perimeter. A September counteroffensive pushed the North Korean army back toward the Yalu River. However, China launched a counterattack on October 19, leading to intense battles. The image shows soldiers carrying wounded comrades during these engagements. After over 3 years of fighting, the Korean Armistice Agreement was signed on July 27, 1953, establishing the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ. One striking photograph features Major John Glenn inspecting his Panther jet after surviving a flight where enemy fire left over 250 holes in the aircraft. Despite the armistice, no official peace treaty was signed, and tensions between the two nations persist. Another image depicts American artillery advancing under heavy rain, firing at distant enemy positions. In the background, homes can be seen beyond the battle lines. The war resulted in nearly 5 million deaths, with 40,000 U.S. soldiers killed and over 100,000 wounded. Stunning photographs capture key moments of the war, including ships lined up for the Battle of Incheon and troops preparing for an airborne mission north of Pyongyang. Amid the brutal winter of the Korean War, soldiers marched through the snow alongside a heavily armored tank. The harsh conditions tested their endurance as they navigated an unforgiving battlefield. This rare, colorized photo captures a chilling moment of war and resilience. War is devastating, and no one truly wins on the battlefield. This reflected on how leaders could return home to comfort, while soldiers' families faced loss and grief. This image shows American soldiers braving harsh winter conditions, advancing through heavy snow. Under the American flag, soldiers stand at attention in a solemn ceremony during the Korean War. With rifles in hand and a chaplain leading the service, this rare colorized photo captures a moment of honor, duty, and reflection on the battlefield. This striking photo features a lone bagpipe player standing above 2 soldiers. Though his nationality is unclear, the instrument is strongly associated with the Scottish Highlands. While U.S. troops made up the majority of Western forces, thousands of British and Commonwealth soldiers also fought. The conflict extended to air and sea battles, as seen in an image of U.S. Navy fighter planes soaring above a warship. The Korean War erupted when Communist North Korea launched an invasion of the South after a series of border clashes. In the frozen landscapes of the Korean War, soldiers and tanks pushed forward through deep snow and bitter cold. This rare colorized photo captures the harsh conditions and relentless struggle faced on the battlefield. The conflict ended on July 27, 1953, with the signing of an armistice. A U.S. Army Sherman tank unleashes a flamethrower, engulfing its surroundings in fire. The armistice established the Korean Demilitarized Zone, separating North and South Korea and facilitating prisoner exchanges. U.S. soldiers positioned at an airfield, ready for action during the Korean War. With no official peace treaty, the 2 Koreas remained technically at war. F-51 Mustangs stationed at Cheyenne Municipal Airport, Wyoming, in 1949, poised for deployment. A U.S. Marine Corps F-4 U-4B Corsair undergoes final weapon checks before launching from USS Sicily CVE 118 for an attack on enemy forces in Korea in November 1950. A group of American soldiers gathers for a photo in Korea, dressed in military uniforms, helmets, and carrying rifles, capturing a moment of camaraderie amidst the war. South Korean soldiers carry a wounded American ally off the battlefield. The war lasted from 1950 to 1953, costing America 33,686 soldiers, with officials criticized for poor preparation. 2 U.S. Marines assist a wounded comrade away from battle. The Marines were one of the few branches prepared for deployment, but lacked sufficient landing craft. A severely injured soldier is airlifted by a Sikorsky H-5 helicopter. The Korean War saw the first large-scale use of helicopters for medical evacuations and close air support. Korean civilians watch as a U.S. soldier is airlifted for treatment. Helicopter medevacs and improved battlefield medicine saved thousands of lives and remain key in combat today. A lucky soldier pulls a piece of shrapnel from his body armor. Introduced in 1952, these nylon vests deflected 75% of shrapnel, reducing torso wounds significantly. Soldiers relax and share a smoke away from combat. Though 21 UN nations contributed, the U.S. supplied 88% of ground troops despite being under-equipped. 3 soldiers eat a meal during the Korean War. American troops enjoyed better rations than in past wars, including fresh vegetables, ice cream, and even bananas. American troops take cover behind a tank, possibly an M26 Pershing or M46 Patton. Originally developed for World War II, these tanks played a key role in Korea against Soviet-made T-34s. A U.S. tank equipped with a flamethrower attacks North Korean positions. Used heavily by Marines to clear defensive strongholds, flamethrowers are no longer part of U.S. military arsenals. American troops fire a Browning M1917 machine gun at enemy forces. Despite being a World War I-era weapon, it remained in service until the Vietnam War. F-86 Sabre jets stand ready at an airfield. These fighters were deployed against Soviet MiG-15s, marking the first large-scale jet-on-jet air combat in history. An American soldier smiles while reading a letter under a Confederate flag. UN forces nearly collapsed early in the war, but counterattacks at Incheon changed the tide before China intervened. U.S. troops pray during the Korean War. These images gain significance amid modern tensions, with North Korea's missile tests and U.S. warnings of possible conflict. Privates John Joyle, Henry Hayward, and Donald Beebe of the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry steady themselves after mortar training near Miryang, February 1951. In this image, a U.S. Army M46 tank experiences track problems in Korea, May 1951. U.S. Marines destroy an enemy bunker, January 1, 1953. These combat patrols aim to capture prisoners, eliminate enemy forces, and destroy enemy positions. A captured North Korean flag is proudly displayed after the Battle for Seoul, October 5, 1950. Front row, Sergeant Russell Evans, Staff Sergeant John A. Fichter, and PFC Wendell B. Champion. This image shows a dirty and exhausted U.S. sergeant takes a break in Korea, July 1950. Korea, January 1953, Lance Corporal C.R. Moran of the Royal Australian Regiment smokes a cigarette after a freezing night patrol, exhaustion visible on his face. A U.S. soldier crouches in a swampy jungle, gripping a shotgun while observing a group of Vietnamese civilians. A woman and 2 small children, partially submerged in water, gaze at him with fear and uncertainty. This haunting image captures the human cost of war during the Vietnam conflict. Hill 614, Korea, March 1, 1951. Corporal Len Wright of the 3rd Battalion, Royal Australian Regiment, leads an advance toward Hill 587, carrying an Owen submachine gun. U.S. Missouri soldiers from the 19th Infantry Regiment pose for a New Year's portrait along the Kumsong Front, December 1951. This image shows 5 Dutch soldiers receive Christmas presents in Korea, 1950. Soldiers from the U.S. 19th Infantry Regiment, 24th Infantry Division, man a 75mm M20 recoilless rifle in a fortified hilltop position, early 1951. Soldiers from the U.S. 19th Infantry Regiment, 24th Infantry Division, hold a defensive position in the hills of Korea, early 1951. 2 gunners of the Royal New Zealand Artillery's 16th Field Regiment peer out from their dug-in hut, Gunner Phil Hansen and Lance Bombardier Horry Chestnut. In this image, a Vickers machine gun team from the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry rests in a combat zone, Korea, March 7, 1951. M41 55mm long toms of the 937th Field Artillery Battalion, Arkansas National Guard, possibly stationed near Yangu, Gangwon Province, May-June 1951. A Marine Observation Squadron 6, VMO-6, H-03S-1 helicopter lifts off from a 1st Marine Division outpost in the Pusan perimeter, August 7, 1950. Crew members stand on their tank after getting stuck in a riverbed while attempting to cross the swollen Pukan River. It was later towed out April 7, 1951. A U.S. Army gunner fires an M2075mm recoilless rifle near Utluk-tong, Korea, June 9, 1951, supporting infantry across the valley. By the end of June, the battle lines near the 38th parallel would remain unchanged for 2 years. This image shows veterans of the freezing Battle of Chosin Reservoir, November 1950, became known as the Chosin Few. U.S. soldiers observed Chinese positions near Old Baldy, a strategic height west of Chorwon, South Korea, March 1953. 3 U.S. Marines fire from behind a barricade during the Battle of Seoul, September 29, 1950. Stalin and Kim Il-sung's portraits overlook the battleground. Men of the 1st Battalion, the Duke of Wellington's regiment, smoke while waiting for dusk before joining a patrol into no man's land at the Hook, June 1953. A Mari gun crew from 162nd Battery, 16th Field Regiment, Royal New Zealand Artillery, Smile for the Camera, Korea, 1953. Mari and Pakeha served together but often grouped into informal units. A U.S. Marine sits on the turret of an M26 Pershing tank, backing up a patrol during the Battle of Kapyong, April 23, 1951. This image shows a soldier inspects a damaged Canadian Sherman M4A376W HVSS tank in a mine crater, Korea, circa 1952. Private Georgie Richards of the Royal Australian Regiment sorts of rations, including tins of carnation milk, Korea, March 4, 1954. 3 Ethiopian gunners from Addis Ababa prepare to fire a 75mm recoilless rifle, Korea, 1951. Ethiopia was the first African nation to contribute ground troops to the UN command. Airborne troops from the 187th Regimental Combat Team, Rakasans, aboard a C-119 flying boxcar for a drop behind enemy lines north of Pyongyang, Korea. Miss Hap, a 2-week-old orphaned kitten, drinks canned milk from a dropper with the help of Marine Sergeant Frank Prater, Korea, 1953. She was named Miss Hap for being born at the wrong place, wrong time. U.S. Marines of the 1st Marine Division relaxed by a hut after eliminating a sniper, September 24, 1951. From left, Corporal Walter J. Lyons, Corporal John J. Rafferty, Staff Sergeant George R. Sullivan, and Corporal Joseph F. McCullough. Elements of the U.S. 1st Marine Division crossed the Han River near Hangzhou during the Incheon Advance, September 21, 1950. Fighting with the U.S. 2nd Infantry Division, Sergeant First Class Major Cleveland points out a North Korean position to his integrated machine gun crew, November 20, 1950. This image shows Staff Sergeant Reckless, a decorated warhorse, held an official rank in the U.S. military. Private David Addiscott of the King's Liverpool Regiment observes enemy positions through binoculars from a forward post during the Korean winter. A captured North Korean prisoner wears a prisoner of war tag, treated under UN International Warfare Rules, September 4, 1950. The Turkish Army Infantry Brigade arrives in Pusan, Korea, October 1950. The brigade trained near Taegu and received U.S. equipment before joining the U.S. 25th Infantry Division. A company of Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry moves across rice paddies toward enemy positions near Busan, March 1951. A battle on March 7th resulted in 7 Canadian deaths and 37 wounded. M26 tanks, jeeps, and U.S. Marines push forward against Chinese forces in muddy terrain north of Hungsong, March 7, 1951. The past holds stories that demand to be seen. These rare Korean War photos have given us a glimpse into history, but there's still so much more to uncover. Click on the video on your screen now for more incredible historical images. See you in the next one. Goodbye.